Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about how inflation in America is killing your retirement and how you can fix it. So, we've been planning out our return to the US this fall, and we're starting to see the reflection of that and looking at some of those numbers. And we are hearing from a lot of you in our comment section as well about, the price of everything going up, and inflation just seems to be kind of getting out of control.
Yeah, and all those things that targets you've had, they keep moving because the prices keep seemingly going up. So we wanted to dive into a little bit of why and what we're doing to combat that and how you can kind of offset that yourself too. So it's interesting looking at an article here from Fortune magazine just from this month, and it is saying that corporate profits drove 53% of the inflation costs during the second and third quarters of this year. Whereas the previous 40 years, corporate profits only drove 11% of the cost. So what that means is basically it's not cost of labor, it's not cost of materials, cost of, hamburger patties and buns. It is just companies wanting to make more money, which is having the price go up exponentially in some cases. So that is kind of shocking to see, but it does make sense when you look at how fast the prices have gone up. We're going to take a look at McDonald's here. It's a company we tend to look a lot at because they are an international company. And in this chart here, you can see the orange line is their corporate profits. You can see the years on the bottom of the screen. Their earnings per share, this EPS down here at the bottom, we'll circle that for you. In 2018, they made $7 per share. In 2019, also $7. 2020, it dropped down to $6 for obvious reasons. 2021, though, they said, let's kick this up a little bit. $9, then 2022, $10, then $11, then this year $12. Next year projected at $13, and the year after $14 per share. So you can see they were kind of stagnating, 7, 7, 6, and then all of a sudden it was just like, okay, we're just going to make profits. And that is where you're seeing these corporate profits go up, and that is why inflation is happening all over the place. And another article we read in kind of an investing sphere that we're in says this: McDonald's ability to raise prices without losing customers underscores its strong business model. So they know they can do it, they know that we'll pay it, and that's why they're doing it. But that last line is the key, without losing customers, because as long as companies in America won't lose you as a customer, they'll keep raising prices. But the same companies outside of America, outside of the US, where they can't raise the prices without losing customers, guess what? They don't raise the prices as much.
Yeah, we have been in Japan for a while now, for a little over a month, and one of the places where we started out, was in Tokyo, and we wanted to hit up a McDonald's. We do that from time to time when we're looking to, have a break from the local food, and we popped into McDonald's, and I usually get the Big Mac, and Rob usually gets the cheeseburger meal, the double cheeseburger meal, and we looked up the prices. We always want to kind of see the exchange rate. We kind of have a running number in our head, but then if it's different than the number that we have in our head, then we look it up. So we looked up the exchange difference. It was going to be 750 yen for the Big Mac meal, which turned out to be about $4.85, and Rob's double cheeseburger meal was 700 yen, which is about $4.53. That is mind-boggling, because those are kind of the prices that we think of, like 20 years ago. Yeah. When you think about it. So we went to a McDonald's in a train station, which we thought, well, maybe it was going to be a different price or whatever, but once we did this exchange rate, we were like, wow, this is amazing. So think of like if you bought these meals in a McDonald's in, say, like Chicago Union Station or something like that. Think about how much that would cost in comparison to what we paid, $4.85 and $4.53. And that's for the whole meal. So that's for the burger, fries, and a drink as well, which is really just kind of blows my mind. We or kind of wondered how much burger cost. We started thinking about it when we did that conversion. We got our meal. We were like, well, like, how much does it cost in the US? We've been gone for a while now, and we started to look it up and saw that the most expensive Big Mac meal in the US is $17. 17. That's unbelievable. That's more than we paid for both of our meals together. We could get them twice. 2 meals each for the price of one. It does pretty much average out though, just over $10 though, which is still outrageous. That's still paying for both of the meals that we got here in Japan. We've heard for so many years we stayed away from Japan thinking, oh, it's so expensive. Everybody's always talking about how expensive it is in Japan, especially in Tokyo, their biggest city, and it just has not been the case.
Yeah.
We just have been kind of blown away by the differences, especially when you're looking at those, American chain restaurants that they have lots of here. The price differences are just blowing our mind.
Yeah, it is crazy. And those prices in Japan were with tax included, so even more so. And I just think that is true across the board. Every time we walk out of a restaurant, we're spending $15, $16, $70 for a very nice dinner. And we always remark, oh, well, that would have been 3 times that at home. And it just is the case that prices have gone up drastically at home. They have not gone up as much in the rest of the world. And you may not kind of realize it as much when you're there because they kind of creep them up slowly on you. But when we come back, we're always just shocked at the pricing increases every year, aren't we?
We are. We're pretty blown away. It kind of, it kind of launches that reverse culture shock for us too, is the sticker shock as well. When we come back, we're like, gosh, I don't remember these being this expensive, were they? I feel like every single time we go back, we have that same conversation, in the grocery store, when we're looking at hotel prices, when we're eating out at restaurants or ordering food. It's just mind-boggling. Even like the, food ordering apps and things like that. It's just like, wow, so crazy how many fees are tacked on. And a $7-8 burrito ends up being like $30, which
Exactly.
is really, really crazy. This is actually, this whole phenomenon that's taking place in the U.S. is actually it has a term attached to it. They're calling it greedflation, which is really kind of crazy, but it's, that corporate greed is really what's driving up the inflation.
Yeah, so we're interested in knowing how much does a Big Mac meal cost in your area. If you can look it up for us, tell us where you're at, how much it costs. It'd be interesting to see different parts of the country, what it is. Because we also looked up, this was the most shocking thing, we looked up a hash brown, like what we like to get sometimes. $6 for a hash brown. Who is paying $6 for a hash brown at McDonald's? That was more than our Big Mac meal in total. So just crazy to do that. But this really underscores why the idea of retiring early, and traveling is so attractive for Americans. We've found it to be way cheaper to travel the world than to just live where we were living in Atlanta in America. And that is something that a lot of people are just now catching on to, because we're always taught to think, well, if you're going to travel, that's super expensive. You'll run out of money. You're actually saving tons of money by traveling, just because everything is a quarter of the price in most of these countries. And we're in Tokyo. We're in Japan. It's one of the more expensive countries. When you get outside of here, when you go to Vietnam, these meals are $2, $3, not $4. So you're saving even another 50% off of that. But that's making this attractive. So the ultimate retirement formula, which we've come up with for maximizing your money, is to earn or get your money in US dollars, then spend it in foreign currency in other countries, and then take the savings and invest that back into U.S. companies, which are obviously profiting very well, which is what we've done, right? So we own McDonald's stock, and that's what we're doing with the savings on our Big Macs, is we're buying the stock in McDonald's, so that when they profit, we profit.
Yeah, and it's so funny because for a long time we've been traveling full time for over 6 years now, and since the very beginning, people have said things like, "Oh my gosh, did you win the lottery? You're traveling full time. How can you afford to do that?" And it's like, just kind of crazy when you look at the actual numbers of traveling compared to sitting in one place in America and making your money there and spending your money there. You're going to spend way more than if you do it someplace else, and even in some place that's perceived to be as expensive, like Tokyo, Japan, really turns out to be such a great deal. And the thing about McDonald's and why we have owned it for such a long time also is, we've seen this company in every single country that we've ever been in, and we've been in over 60 countries, 5 continents, and we have seen them, and every single time we see it, it is full. And not foreigners, it's full of locals. We had the hardest time trying to find someplace to sit in McDonald's. We had to wait for someone to clear out a table, and then we went and grabbed it. As soon as someone got up, somebody else went and sat down. It was that full, and there were probably in the entire McDonald's shop maybe 5 to 6 foreigners, including us.
Yeah, so this strategy is interestingly pretty obvious to locals outside of the U.S. because, and not so much to people in the U.S. because they don't really understand the pricing differences and what inflation has done to the U.S. Because we talk to people all the time when we're traveling, and inevitably conversation always leads back to how much do things cost in America, right?
Exactly. And we actually had this conversation recently with one of our tour guides, and we were just kind of, chatting it up, and I forget what he was explaining something to us, and we were like, "Oh, that's a really good price," and he was like, "Whoa, I think that's expensive," and we're like, "Well, he's like, yeah, of course, you guys, are coming in with U.S. dollars, so your money is worth way more here." He's like, "You guys are smart to make your money in the U.S. and come and spend it here. You're gonna be like, rich, live like king and queen here." So that was kind of wild to think, even somebody local in, someplace like Vietnam is seeing that also.
Yeah, so what can you do about this? Because that is the problem in a nutshell. There are ways to get around this. The first action plan is to invest what you can. Stock prices follow corporate profits in the long run. So if profits keep going up, which they will because they're going to keep raising those prices, stock prices will keep going up over time. We're talking in a period of years, not on a daily chart. So if you just have extra money, you do want to be investing that. If you don't know anything about investing, we have links in the description on how we invest, what we use to invest, and there's videos on the channel about that. But the second thing, and maybe more important for people starting this, is to focus on becoming location independent. That doesn't mean you have to move, but it means you're starting to move some of your assets outside of a location that you're dependent on being in there. So for instance, we lived in Atlanta. If we worked in Atlanta, she worked a job in Atlanta that she had to wake up every day, go to that office, and get that paycheck. My job was always, as a photographer, I could basically live wherever I wanted to and do the same job. So we were already 50% of the way there just because of the career choice we made. But it's important to start to move as much of that income as you can away from having to be in one city, because then you can spend your money basically anywhere. And you can do this through, once you get your IRA, your 401k, if you get a pension, those are all things you can take anywhere, and that's what's the beautiful thing about it. So you can start to do that if you're doing consulting or anything like that. You can start to move those finances away from one city and get them where you can use them anywhere.
Yeah, I think that is such a huge key, is that location independence, even before the financial independence, that location independence is what's key, because that's what's going to help you to take the money that you're making and spending it someplace else.
Yeah, now it won't mean you have to leave the U.S., but it will mean you have the option to. And I do want to stress, this is not an easy thing to do. This is a difficult thing that's probably going to take a while to accomplish, but it can be done. There's tons of people doing this, and they've all set out a plan. And right now, retirement is all about options. And everyone out there, everyone watching this video has different options available to them. It is not black and white anymore where you have to do this and everyone does the same thing. There's tons of different paths. There's no longer one formula for you to get there. So look at everything available. You know, we've demonstrated, one of the reasons that we even started this channel was to demonstrate that YouTube is one of those options for people. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people will get there through investing, some people through their 401k, some through a pension. Some people don't have that option though. And so we've already demonstrated last month, we made over $5,000 on this YouTube channel, and we started it less than a year ago. So that's an option for people that don't have some of those other things available to them.
Exactly. And you know, actually a lot of people, after we do broadcast obviously our income on this channel, we've been sharing it monthly along with our budget, and so many people, you know, come back and ask us like, okay, well now I'm interested, like I'm intrigued, because they are looking for options, and they did come to that understanding that it's not black and white for everyone, and that it isn't just one path. There are lots of different ways there, and more people keep, you know, asking like, hey, is YouTube really like a thing that, you know, people do? We did put a course together. There is a link down in the description if you want to look at that. But as Rob said, there are so many different ways, you know, to do this. Whether you have a pension, you're using that 401k, or you're using, you know, your investments in other ways. Definitely lots of options for people.
Yeah, so that's the flow you want to get into. You want to get into investing, spending in other currencies, and just having all your money be location independent. We've heard from a lot of people that this is just something that really intrigues them because they know they're not going to make that big number that's out there. And like we knew we weren't going to make it. If we just stayed in Atlanta, and you know, whether you're looking at needing to get $1 million, $2 million, $3 million to just kind of retire the old-fashioned way, well, if you're sitting on $5,000, that seems like a world away, and it seemed like that for us. But the great thing now is for those people, there's other things you can do, and that has just opened up a whole world to many people. So it's an exciting time to be thinking about retirement. Even though this inflation problem is happening, there's still things that can be done.
Yeah, you got something, you know, that definitely can work positively. That's the great thing, is there's really no right or wrong. There's just options, and you pick what works best for you and the path that, you know, is going to work in a good manner for you, and to give you what it is that you're looking for in that retirement stage.
Yeah, so we hope this is encouraging to you no matter what stage you're at, and give you some information on what it will be like if you go travel and how possible that is for you. So please give us a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't, and we will see you on the next one.